Morning. Welcome here to another Kerfuffle webinar. Here today with the king of hair. There he is, Mr. Jerry Lyons, Agency Content Club, as he described himself, Chief Dosser. So, Chief Dosser, welcome to the forum. How are you, sir?
I'm all right, thanks. Yeah, I'm all right. I'm good.
I hope you're going to get your energy levels up because that's bullshit. We have Nick Cheshire and Abigail joining us today, who are bringing together the sensible side of the business. Welcome, guys. Oh no, don't raise your eyebrows there, Abigail. I noticed that. Thank you for joining us here today. Are you both well?
I'm good.
Yeah, really good.
Excellent. We have got a mystery star who may or may not appear. He didn't get the 10 o'clock memo, but if he jumps on, we'll all welcome him well. So, Adam, if you're out there, you're meant to be on here. Jump on now. We're going to talk today, guys, about how great estate agency content wins instructions, which, if that doesn't catch most people's attentions at the moment, then I don't know what will. But I suppose, Jerry, that's the sign of a good headline, isn't it? Really?
It's all about the headline. 99% of any piece of content or article is the headline, because if the reader doesn't get attracted by the headline, they won't read the rest of it.
Yeah. So can I just kick off just with one brief observation? The fantastic Louisa Fletcher, a journalist, she was making the point that the British public reads at an 11-year-old level or something like that. Is that something that you would have heard or in your previous life that's why the importance of a simple headline is so important?
Well, I know from something we did years ago when we were studying, the Sun could be read by a 9-year-old, the Sun newspaper.
Yeah.
And they did a really interesting thing where they took reporters from the Telegraph, who can write 600-word articles as standard, and the Sun, who were allowed 250, 350-word articles, to swap jobs. And the Sun writers could do what the Telegraph writers could do easily, because they've got all these extra words to use.
Yeah.
The Telegraph writers couldn't do the Sun version. So, yeah.
As somebody who has been accused, this is me, by the way, of being overly verbose, I've sat there at the end of what I have thought is the most fantastic blog or article, literally cheered myself at using all these kind of Blackadder style things, and then got literally zero engagement rate. It's a real issue, isn't it, in terms of not dumbing down, but making something simple is harder than it looks, I suppose, would be the thing there. Abigail, Nick, how have you found the process of communicating just to the public there? Does it come very naturally to you as agents, or is this something that you've had to learn over time?
I think from my side, it's something that we've kind of learned over time, but equally, I think us putting it into text is not so easy. Estate agents are known for waffling, and I think waffling in a blog post, it's not quite, it just doesn't come across well. It's too long. It can be quite boring. So kind of getting that art of keeping it short, sweet, sometimes humorous, but getting the message across in like what Jerry said, like less words, I think is something that I've particularly always found difficult. And to get that message across, particularly on social media where people's attention span is so short, it has been quite difficult to try and hit that niche, I think.
I was going to respond with, sorry, what did you say there? But that was just making a joke on the lack of attention to detail. But I didn't want to go down there.
Stick to the day jobs, Simon.
Abigail, what about yourself? Is this an area? First of all, do you enjoy this whole area, or is it something you've ever struggled with?
I think it's probably one of the things that got me reinvigorated about estate agency a few years ago, looking at what we're doing, and I think changing my whole attitude to what we're doing. I think previously I would have thought we're just a service industry. Now we are a service industry, probably primarily, but almost in equal measure, we're now a marketing agency. And that's something that's taken a little while to grasp that concept. And I think there are still quite a few agents out there that don't realise we have to be like a sort of omni-channel marketing machine. And content's really the linchpin of all of that. And I think it also depends on your own background. Like I come from quite an academic background, and writing for me is not a problem, but writing documents and content, or even details, you're like, what's actually important? Because it needs to be punchy. Like, I'm used to writing dissertations and stuff like that, and people don't want long, like you said, long sort of verbose paragraphs that go on forever about with infinite detail. They want to know why they want to see this, or why they should be reading it, and what are the sort of key points that they can take away. And I think that's one of the amazing things that Jerry does, is present this information in short, sharp, punchy way, and people don't get bored reading it or fall asleep or just think, I don't have time to read that, I'm going to look at it later.
No one could ever be accused of falling asleep to one of Jerry's posts. That's
never.
That's just not possible. Jerry, as usual, I've completely missed the point, which is most people
like you.
Do you want to just, for those people who have lived living under a rock or everything else, just give them context to what the Agency Content Club does for your members, and indeed why you felt that there was a need for it?
It's really simple. We provide written articles. Well, we started off providing just written articles for estate agents, purely because a couple of my friends who run agency a few years back said they didn't have the time to write these articles. They didn't have the time or the will or the skill. It does take a bit of skill to write an article, believe it or not. So we just thought, we launched the club properly 2 years ago. This September is our second birthday. And it was just the gap we saw in the market for writing content for estate agents. And it's grown from there to be videos now. We provide videos as well. And also more and more, and I think this is going to be one of the big areas of content, is a lot of our members, I don't think Nick or Abigail do, but I think it's something to consider, is they use the content almost like as a script to camera type stuff. So let's say we've done a piece about, I don't know, a change in landlords legislation. We'll do an article, but I've noticed more and more of our members are using that article to talk directly to camera using one of those, not biddy printers. What are they called?
Teleprompter.
What's a biddy printer? I just made that up. Is that just a word?
Biddy printer was what they used to do the sport on, wasn't it? That was.
That's it. Yeah, the biddy printer.
Stay on message. Stay message and relevant here, Jerry. Come on.
It's just, listen, nobody minds a ramble as long as it's an entertaining ramble. Yeah, that's the key.
I tell you what, it's bad. It's really bad when you've got Andy Overman helping you out. Okay, Jerry. Let's take this. So, can you admit now? Did you used to get infuriated at what you saw agents were doing, or did you just go, I can do good here?
I wouldn't say get infuriated. One thing that does infuriate me is jargon and pretension.
Oh,
and
shit,
that's
on the wrong show.
No, but that's the cornerstone of, if you can remove the jargon from any communication, you can communicate better.
So,
do you know what I mean?
just on that, Jerry, I remember reading the Elon Musk autobiography, and nutcase though he is, the thing that I loved about him when he did Tesla, he stopped them using acronyms or whatever it is, because he said it was just a way of hiding behind, almost, proving you were cleverer than other people, and the amount of lost time that was, either people didn't want to put their hands up and admit they didn't know, or they got embarrassed by doing it, which doesn't help a great culture all around, does it? Or when the key word is communication, it stops the whole thing working.
Exactly. And I would say with these two guys, Abigail and Nick, not just saying it because they're here.
He is saying it because we're here.
Yeah, I am saying that because they're here. No, but they're very real people.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I think where estate agents have got a lot better at. They don't have to do these silly photos of them looking all slick and professional, like under like that, or on the phone. Why would anyone have a profile photo, right?
Everybody now,
it makes no sense. Look,
everybody now go to Ian White's profile on LinkedIn and do. If he used to have it like that, but of course, don't go to mine because that was photoshopped about 6 years ago. So.
Yours is incredible.
It is. I've got Jeremy Beadle's hand underneath.
It's like yours is like a pantomime performance. It's
thank you. Because I'm also a technical support actor as well. Adam, who is our mystery guest, he says, "Chap, sorry, my link did not work. Not sure what happened." Adam, I don't know if you still can. Just try it on Chrome or I think on Explorer. It doesn't work on Safari, but do see if that works. If not, we'll carry on manfully without you. But thanks for letting us know. Somebody liked the fact that I used the word overly verbose, but there you go. Andy Overman jumped in there just before his teleprompter assistance there to say we are all marketeers nowadays. Yeah. I think that is true, isn't it? Or certainly we need to at least identify that is a skill you have in your business, whether that is internal or whether it's outsourced. It's not something you can do without, is it? Because otherwise, the famous Seth Godin and being the purple cow, you are going to get lost in all of the noise and everything else that's out there.
It's interesting you said it because Nick, you know your sell boards.
Yeah.
For me, that is a great piece of marketing. Do you want to explain about how your for sale and sold boards look?
So we've got we had just as kind of standard for sale boards originally, which just had your kind of traditional for sale and sold on it. But because we kind of deal one-to-one with the clients here, I just kind of felt that the individual needed a little bit more recognition for the fact that they'd been the one that sold that property. So all we did is we kept the boards exactly the same, and we took the sold slip and we put sold by, and then it would have like Nick Cheshire and it have my mobile number underneath it with our picture to the side. And we just found it was a little bit, I don't know, it's like a pat on the back for yourself a little bit, because you've sold it and you've got your name there. Yeah. So it helps with a bit of morale. But I think for other people actually seeing that there's an individual that sold that property, it's not the company, it's that person that sold that property. Yeah. I think it just goes a long way in adding that whole we're people, not a company.
I think that's a massive one, Nick, isn't it? That we've had to learn to break out from over here. From the Americans and the Aussies have done very well in terms of blending much better the company brand and the individual brand together without seeing them, as happens so often over here, as actually being in conflict. I think that for so long that happened where the company didn't want to promote the individual, and as we've noticed, you're missing out on the one of the you can't say on the one hand your greatest asset are your people and then not promote your people, can you?
Well, that's the interesting thing. So Bailey here, her mum, so she's American. Her mum is a real estate agent in America for Keller Williams. Okay. And she came over to visit her daughter, and she introduced us both, and we had a bit of a chat. And she just found it completely bizarre how she saw all these for sale boards around and all these sold boards, but none of them mentioned the agent that had sold it or the agent that had listed it. It mentions the agency, but none of them mentioned the individual. And that's where the kind of thought process started going on. And then she mentioned about having our face on there, and it just kind of developed from there to end up what it is now. But I think it's just the end result is better because people are seeing, particularly if you're a client of that individual and you're seeing that they've sold that property or they've got another property for sale, it's a bit reassuring for the client. But I think for the general public to kind of see the people involved with the business, I think that kind of personal recognition is important, and it has helped the morale side of things, because it does make you feel better when you see your face on the board, particularly when the kids see it as well. So I think there's so many different elements that are benefiting from benefit to putting your face on these things and getting your face out there a little bit more. And I don't quite understand. I fell in the habit. I don't understand how us as agents seem to be shying from that.
Well, for another man who's never shied from it, but probably should have, Andy Overman, Jerry's video content is going down a storm now. And he's also saying as well, also editable Canva images so they can do some green screen videos. I'll tell you what was interesting. When I used to do, way before Chris Watkins said he was doing it, I used to interview our old repeat clients. And every time I was just about to go on camera, they would go, "Oh God, I hate going on camera. It's absolutely, I get so nervous." And the minute the cameras went on, it was like showtime, like that. Agents, by definition, are gregarious people. They are. You'll never see a quiet person, and an estate agent is never the quiet one at a party, is it? It may take a bit of getting beyond that comfort zone there, but once you are able to get that personality out there. To quote Arthur Daly, the world's your lobster, isn't it? I mean, it really does open up that ability to promote yourself with all the very easy ways that you've got these days on every platform going.
Yeah. Listen, we can all be mini Rupert Murdochs now. given the amount of media platforms we have just with that in our hand.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's mental. It's mental. There's so many ways to get your message out to the market.
So Jerry, let me kick off with the main one there. So what does great estate agency content look like to you? And then I'll come to you, Abigail and Nick, afterwards. But Jerry, from your point of view, who's doing great estate agency content apart from your good self and the people here?
Who springs to mind? Andy Overman, not just saying it because I'm really not just saying it because
he's branding his own right, isn't he?
I paid him £100 to comment on this thing. Andy Overman springs to mind. Luke Sinclair, Oliver Press. There's loads of agents doing it, but the theme is, I think the theme is the common thing with the guys that are doing it is, and Abigail's done this really well recently as well, is they've got involved with their community.
Yeah.
So, you know, like the stuff you did, Abigail, when your chap, I forget his name, but he was around Wembley Stadium.
Hassan, yeah.
Was it Hassan?
Yeah, it's Hassan, our biggest football fan.
Yeah, but that was really good because that was interesting. Do you know what I mean? And that was community-based content. It's got sod all to do with property, but it's everything to do with capturing people's attention. And I think one of the things every business has got to get their heads around, whether they're estate agents or butchers, right, is we're in the attention business now. Everyone is competing for attention. So whether you grab that attention by a community article or an article about one we've got lined up, which always works well in this month, is getting kids ready to go back to school. Nothing to do with property, but it always gets a good feedback and good share rate, or whatever you want to call it, on social media. So good content. And I'm going to use, Elon Musk is going to love this because I'm going to use one of those acronyms. Purely because if I didn't, I would forget what I was talking about because I'd go off and talk about something else. Is HITS. So think of HITS, right, for your content. Is it helpful? Helpful being, is it helpful to the reader, to the watcher? Is it interesting? Interesting could be a lot of different things, but you've just got to try and make it interesting in terms of the tone of it, the subject matter. Is it trustworthy? Is somebody going to read or watch it and think, I can trust these guys? And the final one is it sustainable? Because one of the big issues, well, not issues, it ain't an issue, problems I see with estate agents, when they start their content, unless they use us or Chris Watkin or Dataloft, they can start on their own really well, but they can't sustain it. So the S is for sustainable. So it's helpful, interesting, trustworthy, sustainable. Yeah.
Because you see loads of people, don't you, that have a massive blitz in some marketing campaign, and then you just don't see him for months again afterwards, do you? And I've been guilty of that. I think, like many people, I was talking to Jane yesterday, great on the social media side as well. Do you remember the first time you ever got to do your first newsletter? 40 articles. You couldn't get it. Next edition went down to 20. By the third month, you were down to 10, and by the fourth, you were asking around the office, Christ, guys, what have we got to put in here? It really does take commitment, doesn't it, to understand if you're going to enter into this, you can't do it piecemeal. Just as people say, advertising, has to be about that consistency.
It's best line I think for that is content marketing is not an event, it's a process. It's not something you go bang, we've done it now, tick the box. It's something that you sort of like tick the box every day on, or at least every week.
But on that point, let me just come to you first, Abigail. That obviously you can't disagree with anything that Jerry's just said there. But what I can still see a few people rolling their eyes and sort of, well, that's all very well, but have you seen how short we are of instructions out there? And if you've got the opportunity to try and turn up to an appraisal, how important do you think it is to keep that as almost to defend that time, to make sure that you are dedicating it to this content creation?
Well, I think it's really important because the only way you're going to get more listings is by continuously nurturing your client base and getting useful information out to them. I mean, we've had people that we haven't spoken to for a while call us up, say, oh, I saw your article the other day. Do you remember me? I bought a house from you 10 years ago. And just start a conversation from there. And then the next minute, you're showing them a house and they've bought something and they want you to sell theirs. And it's an ongoing process. And I think part of the problem with estate agents is we want everything now. And playing the long game, again, is something that none of us have ever been used to. But you've got to play a long game and you've got to plan it. It's like any single thing that you do, you have to consistently do it. So you need to consistently put out content. You need to consistently prospect. You can't just do it one day and then not do it the next. And also, once you start doing it consistently, if you don't send something out, people start to miss it. I had a client phone up and say, "Oh, I didn't get your normal Friday article. Did I miss something?" I'm like, "Okay, I forgot to press send there. Whoops." And send it out. So you do want people to be continuously left in a situation where they're wanting more. And I think working with people like Jerry and Chris, it sort of taught us that we need to plan our content as well. So stuff that Jerry does, we have our weekly plan now, just like he does. We've taken that and then we add all the other bits and pieces that we're going to do to it. And I think even if you're outsourcing a lot of that content creation, you still need to have somebody in the business whose main task is putting that all together and overseeing it and dealing with the engagement and sharing it out and making sure any leads that come back in from it are being dealt with properly. So it's so important. I don't think.
And Abigail, there you just mentioned there somebody should be responsible, but that doesn't mean that it should all fall on them, does it? That just means they should be able to go out and say, talk to other members of the team. Have you got some ideas and pick up on?
Yeah, that's what we do. So we've got one person in our business that collates everything, and she will say to the team, "Okay, this is Monday. Here's my plan for the week. I need a sales video today. I need a lettings video tomorrow. I need an applicant wrap. I need a coming soon sneak peek video." And she'll tell them what she needs for that week, so they've got time to go and put it together.
Got you. Okay, that's really helpful. And Nick, from your point of view, what does great estate agency content look like to you?
Not boring, for starters. Not boring, and not. I know we've said it already, but the estate agency lingo, talking in our own kind of language, so the clients can't understand that. I know Jerry made a point of that, but I think it's so important because as soon as they see anything that is that jargon base, they switch off and they forget the content. So I think it's got to be interesting. I've always found humour tends to work a million times better than anything boring.
Does it?
So, go on, Mr. Tumble.
So humour definitely is a main point there, but also the consistency.
Yeah. But Nick, just on that humour, obviously I'm going to jump into that one there because that's a really difficult. It can be so powerful, can't you? But you can quite easily step over the line. How important is it to take that gamble to be a bit edgier? Do you just have to feel that naturally within your comfort zone, or what? I mean, clearly you feel comfortable with that element, but some people I think would naturally, pull away from that, don't they?
Yeah, I think people are too worried about upsetting everyone, and there is it doesn't matter what you say, even whether it's humorous or not, you're going to upset someone somewhere. But I think there's a level where you can kind of go, yeah, that's a bit too close to the line, where if you wouldn't say it to your nan, don't put it on social media. So I think that's kind of my line. If I wouldn't joke with it with my nan, like whether she finds it funny or not, if I wouldn't say it to her, it's not going out there.
I love the idea that our thought learning today is, what would my nan say?
Yeah, but you know what? Can I just make a point there? I had an old East End Cockney council house nan who used to call us the C word. Their grandkids.
So no shrinking violets there.
So, yeah, using that test, she would laugh at anything. We used to fall off the bike. She'd be saying, look at that idiot. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, the nan test doesn't work if it's a council.
I think the rule is Nick's nan, not Jerry's nan.
Yeah.
We'll go with that.
Yeah. Choose your nan, not the Catherine Tate nan, basically. That's
pretty much like that was my English nan, yeah. But can I just say something? Sorry. You just made me think of something. Abigail, do you remember when you released the bloopers?
Yes, yeah. I had to cut out a lot of the expletives.
Yeah, but I noticed that you got a really good response from that, it seemed, like on social media, because people like that.
It's honesty. It's all about honesty, isn't it? It's about honesty and vulnerability. You are not being pompous, are you? The minute you can do that.
There's a reason why some of the top and smartest brands now will film their stuff not in a big expensive studio, but with what's one of those lights? I don't know the technical term, but it's basically a camera, one of those bright lights that shine on your face and make you look like you got a torch in your face. They'll do it that because it's got that. They'll film it that way because it's got that authenticity. And that's what people want, especially from estate agents, right? Because you're going up against the perception. Now, the perception, it's changing, but it's dodgy estate agents.
I think the thing I love about humour is it leaves the independence to be so much more nimble. There are some bigger brands that do humour fantastic well. Marsh and Parsons, I just adore, and they get quite a lot of grief sometimes for some of their stuff, but me resonates time in, time out. And everything else there. A lot of the other bigger brands, though, they didn't, if you remember in the early days, they didn't even get involved in social because they were so petrified of what would happen there. So look, there were a lot of those ones are mellowing, as you'd say there, but you guys will always have the ability to be, first of all, you've always spoke about it, Jerry, the ability to respond quicker. You know, whilst they go through various sign-off procedures and everything else, you've already got the blog out there and have engaged as forward-thinking. And then you don't have to ask what sort of personality, you know, the business is about. What voice should we be talking about? Because it is your voice.
Yeah. And that applies to the community. You know, a good, smart independent like these two and other guys are always more nimble in responding to the community's need than a corporate that has to sign it off with a CSR policy and make sure their PR team are happy with it and all that nonsense. You know, some of the stuff you've done, Abigail, with the Brent Bulls and what's that project you've supported recently?
Answer Youth Project.
Answer Youth Project. All this stuff again is great content. It's like Nick, you know, when we did the thing with the shop round your way.
Yeah, the Fab Shop. It's a charity run by special needs.
Yeah. That's great content for an estate agent to show that they're supporting their community. A, it's the right thing to do. And B, it just gives you a great piece of content to go out and share with the community.
Can we just touch on that just before I jump onto it? Actually, Ben jumps in. Ben Civil, yes, I think being relatable and just showing you're a real person is key. I think that's absolutely
100%.
Cheers for that, Ben. You talk about community there, Jerry. You talk about doing the right thing. Your absolutely fantastic Karma Club, which really should Kerfuffle should have nicked because it's got a K in it and everything has a K in it.
I can sell it to you.
We'll have conversation. Look, just talk to people what the Karma Club is, and then again what your belief is, that because I firmly believe it shouldn't be seen as being cynical. You can do absolutely the right thing, socially, morally, and it still be a good thing for the business, can't you? Is that right?
Yeah. So basically,
what's your belief around the Karma Club and how did it start up?
Right. So the Karma Club is basically we take a £5 every month from our members. Not, you know, it comes out of our pocket, not theirs, but it's like we'll take a £5 out and we'll put it all in a big collective sort of pot. And then at the start of the month, we go to the members and say, have you got any community groups you want to support in your area? So, like as mentioned, Abigail's done it with a couple of sporting ones around her area. Nick's done it with shops. Adam, who would have been on this, he did it with the hospice. And we give away about 650 quid a month. But what happens there is we match fund the estate agent's donation. So if, let's say, Abigail gives 150 quid, we'll give 150 quid, meaning the community group. And we always say, go small. Don't give it to Macmillan Cancer Relief. They do great work, but they're very well funded. Don't give it to the dog. Yeah, don't give it to the Dogs Trust. Give it to a local dog sanctuary. Do you know what I mean? So think local with your giving. And the Karma Club is just basically, I don't know. I've always thought that business can be used for more than just profit and loss. And I think as well, it attracts the right kind of customers to you. I think a lot of our members buy into that. You know, like they can see what we're trying to do with the Karma Club. It's just the right thing to do.
Can I ask Abigail and Nick? So did that enter into your mind process at all when you were thinking about, wanting to get involved with Jerry? Was the Karma Club just a further reinforcement that this was the right kind of business? Because you don't look, it's not possible, is it, to always like the people you do business with or partner up with, but it's sure as hell lovely when it happens like that, isn't it?
I'm going to disagree with you on that and say that I don't think I could do business with someone that I dislike, because I find it very hard to be nice to people. And I'm generally a nice person, but I find it very hard to be nice to somebody that I don't respect and I don't think is doing good stuff. I'm
like the guy on the Far Show who changes his mind every 2 minutes, Abigail. So, So what? No, the only thing I'd say is that does seem to me, though, that actually that is a very real trend, and I don't know whether it's down to lockdown and what's happened, but people have genuinely started really questioning themselves on that, haven't they? And whereas maybe it was more true before that you would get by with actually that our views aren't aligned now, and certainly you see it with the youth of today. If you don't have the right credentials as a business, they simply aren't going to buy from you.
Yeah.
100%. So I'm right and I'm wrong there, Abigail. I mean, it's not important whether I'm entirely wrong or not.
I think it comes down to choice as well. It's the same thing, like all things being equal. Yep. If one agency does a fair bit for the community and the other doesn't, all things being equal, so you like the valuation is on point, the marketing looks good, and you're thinking, I can't really decide which one which. Do you know what I mean? And you think, yeah, but the other one supports the local football club. I see them getting involved with the local fete. I see them doing the local book club. That could be the 1% that just wins the instruction. I'm not saying it definitely would, but it's going to help, isn't it?
On that point, I was just going to say, we're so reliant on the community for our business that we have a moral responsibility to give something back to it. And if all you're doing is taking, you're never going to get any reciprocity, are you?
No,
100%.
That's absolutely spot on. And Nick, that aligned with what you're thinking as well, very, very much so.
Yeah, I mean, when I first spoke to Jerry, I first reached out to kind of find out a little bit about kind of what he does, and I got on with Jerry quite well. I'm saying this because he's got my PayPal email address, so I got on with him quite well. We seem to kind of align in a lot of things, and I think the Karma Club come in just after I joined. Yeah, it was one of the things that kind of I initially only thought I'm going to give this 3 months, I'm going to see how it goes, and then I'll decide what to do from there. But the Karma Club was just like another thing that kind of anchored me in for longer. And I'm glad it did, because as the longer it went on, 3 months wasn't enough. I know with like content marketing, it's the long game, it's not the short game. So 3 months wouldn't have been enough to kind of test it anyway properly. So there's a bit of naivety from my side, but that Karma Club thing just kind of made me realise I was with the right company, and I wanted to be there longer, and that's kind of kept me now for it's about 18 months now, isn't it? Yeah, it's got to be about that.
Lovely. That's great. Well, look, it's a bit like Candyman. You mentioned his name 3 times and he turns up. Mr. Watkins, the venerable Mr. Watkins. Abigail's spot on about giving back to the local community, and there's a man who obviously coined the term, digital mayor and everything else there. I just love that process, that approach there. I don't see anyone more than estate agents doing anything anymore for their local communities. I think it's this again, using shitty terms again here, Jerry, the juxtaposition of how mental it is. The public
what?
Yeah, no, don't ask me to explain it.
Someone's been.
Don't worry, he's being overly verbose again.
I am being overly verbose. That the public see you in what agents in one way, in that classic lazy approach, and actually agents are out there working with their local community, doing charity stuff with the local community, and I'm talking about here as well, of course, on the average ones, or sorry, rather than the extremes who obviously we always get attacked with. I have to just disagree here as well, Abigail. Jerry, he's the main man. That must be because you gave him such a whipping in the ring, Jerry.
Who's talking? I can hear another voice. It's like a cross line back in the day. Oh, sorry, Nick. It's Nick. Remember back in the day when you cross line when you pick up your landline? Do you remember that?
Yeah. I just always hear the voices, so sorry I didn't pick up on that. And Andy Overman, engaged today, says, love that, Abigail, nailed on. It's our moral responsibility and duty. We listen and care for the needs of our community. So that's great.
Can I just say that location are amazing at their community stuff.
They are
amazing.
They are. Yes, I mean, and actually it's fantastic. And what I love about it is what are they 2 offices or 3 offices now with Andy on board?
Yeah, two offices.
People like them and drivers and Norris and the good people we've got on here today, the actual noise in the best possible sense that you can make by doing the right stuff these days just vastly just dwarfs, doesn't it? What people, the more cynical marketing departments and PR departments in the corporates could hope to achieve. And it shows there really is that payback on doing the right thing does deliver as well if you do it in the right way.
You know why? Because it creates emotion.
Yeah,
it creates an emotion. It will make somebody feel something, normally positive. So when you do something for the community, most people will go, "That's a good thing." Do you know what I mean? Like Location did this thing called Seeds of Kindness, where they were giving out seeds for people to do pot plants, or not pot plants like gange. might have been all good, relaxing. But they were doing the Seeds of Kindness campaign, and then it extended. They were getting applications in from outside of their areas, from outside of their target market. And Vicky said, "Oh, that's fine. We'll send it to them." Right. Now that if anything's going to generate good karma, that spirit of generosity, my God, surely that must, because there's no gain in it for them. No. It's just the cost. They're not going to win the business in Watford because they're based in North London and Thetford. No. Do you know what I mean?
I'm going to move on to our next question now, but just before we do, Siri, make a note about Seeds of Kindness along the lines of what Jerry suggested. That's going to be the new kerfuffle promise here. Right, it's all been positivity now, and I'm quite. I get bored, distracted easily now. Let's look at this. Let's look at some of the underbelly of content and everything else there. What mistakes do you see out there? Or what should you avoid with your content? Who wants to kick us off?
Abigail.
Abigail.
Boring stuff.
Boring is the enemy, basically.
I also don't make it too long, and I'm guilty of this myself. So I made a video the other day, and I had to chop it up because I made it, and it was 7 minutes long. I'm like, who's going to watch 7 minutes of me? Only me. So I had to Abigail, drop some stuff in.
But if you're anything like me, it's like, that you're like asking them to cut The Godfather. He said, but that was amazing.
No, it's fine. I'm not like you.
The way you said that so forcefully, I am not like you, shows yet again why you're a person to be respected. Abigail, just in terms of that's such useful, but who is the arbiter on that? Do you run that? Do you have a group of friends or colleagues that you say, look, could you just watch this for me? Because watching your own material is famously quite difficult to take yourself out of the zone.
Yeah, I'm not too bad at it. I don't hate looking at myself on camera, and I think I'm a fairly good judge, but I will run it past other colleagues. I might show it to my husband, and if he's fallen asleep after 3 minutes, I know it's a no-go.
Okay. And Jerry, you were going to say something on this point as well. What's the mistakes to avoid?
Mistakes to avoid, I think, it's inconsistency, being inconsistent. Having, I always say the worst thing than having no blog on your site is having an old blog. Because if somebody goes onto your site and your top blog or your top article is talking about the lockdown, the first lockdown, people are going to think, are they closed? Are they still in business? So
my last one, Jerry, the last one I had to look at the other day was about GDPR. So
and it's also interesting what Abigail said about the length of videos, because I've been thinking about this idea for a while, and it's just like we time frame all our content. It's an old journalistic, well, it's not an old journalistic technique. It's quite a new one since the digital age. And we'll always say a 1 minute read, a 2 minute read, a 3 minute read. So I think that agents are better off doing things that are boxed in. So, here's our 1 minute, 1 minute run through. So you've only given 60-second videos, where you just go bang. So today we're going to tell you how to find a great conveyancing solicitor, and just go look for their reviews, look for recommendations, blah, 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 blah. And use 60 seconds as the deadline. It's like what we do with the articles. We'll always use, I think the longest article we'll ever do is 500 words. Okay. And that'll be me going, I want it shorter.
Great advice. Yeah.
Time frame everything.
Perfect. Nick, from your point of view, what do you've already said, obviously, again, reiterating, Abigail, don't be boring, don't be bland. Anything else you see out there, your competitors that you think keep doing that?
I think the boring and bland we've kind of covered. The terminology we've mentioned before. My pet hate is the no obligation valuation line. I cannot stand that. I think like when in the history of this industry has there been an obligation for evaluation, but like just the way that it's worded, it just falls into that same camp. That at the moment there's certain words like that are mentioned.
Yeah,
that's it. People just put you in the same basket as everyone else, and you could have just wrote an amazing blog. If it's got that at the end of it, you've lost them. I think you've just been put in that basket of everyone else straight away.
It's like an old cliche, isn't it?
Yeah, fascinating to know how many times that is repeated on. I might just do a spot checker on some agent's website.
I think I've been guilty of doing that because it rhymes. That's how simple my mind is. I like it because it rhymes. No obligation valuation, just rhymes. But he's so right. The other thing as well, and I hope Chris Watkin doesn't hate me for saying this. I hate the term vendor.
Vendor applicant. The idea that you apply for a property is one of the most hilarious.
Think of vendor in normal everyday speak. Yeah, the only time it's ever used is for hot dogs. I'll go to see the hot dog vendor, and then you wouldn't even say that. You'd say the geezer selling the hot dogs.
Yeah,
a vendor applicant. We did this thing about jargon. We did like a jargon busting thing, and just had a bit of fun with it. And I think this is a key part of content for estate agents. You know, you're saying like what they're getting wrong is like what Nick's touched on there is the use of industry terms and jargon. You might think you're sounding clever, but you're not. You're defeating the object of communication.
Yeah, absolutely. No, couldn't agree more. And the key part is to
but you'll change your mind about that, wouldn't you? You know, you couldn't agree more now. Then you change your mind. I must say, Premier Inn have got an amazing backdrop. Are you going to Premier Inn?
Yeah. I was just saying to the guys, as I checked in at the Doubletree, I didn't get one, I got two. What's that saying about empathy? They empathise that I'm a chubby git. But anyway, okay, get on to the next one. Jerry, why do you need a joined up approach to your agency's content marketing, and what does that mean?
So joined up approach is basically just having a consistent tone of voice. So if you're going to outsource your content to anyone, just say, like, I want to see some samples first, and then have a look at the content and say, does this sound like something, and have a word with your team. Does this sound like something we would say as an agency? Because our content is very much for independent local agents. It wouldn't be for a corporate. It wouldn't be for a higher end market, a real higher end market. Just wouldn't be. We know that. And it wouldn't be for the cheap and cheerful merchants either. So think about the tone of voice for the content. I forgot the question, actually, because my dog is barking.
Why you need a joined up approach?
Just because it's better. No, because it's a joined up approach. Right. By joined up, this is what we mean. So we offer, and this isn't a pitch, it's just a big part of our joined up approach, is prospecting letters, e-guides, and the content club, the general content. Yeah. But the idea for that is it's almost like a complete content circle, because that's most of your content there. Yeah. E-guides. So an e-guide can be used as a lead capture. Yeah. It gets them into your email nurture that we do as well. That eventually keeps them on your database to send out the regular articles to. Does that make sense? Yeah,
it absolutely does. And I think Abigail mentioned before as well, that kind of omnichannel approach, isn't it? It's big tick in the box there, obviously, because different people engage with you in different ways, and indeed want to be engaged normally in the way that they've found you as well, haven't they? Nick, just on that approach there, you know, what does having a joined up approach mean to you?
I think, well, it's just consistency across the business in everything. I think, and everyone from the outside kind of looking in is going to see your tone on everything. What Jerry just said there about the articles, that was one of the things he did with me when I approached him, is he gave me them articles to kind of read and see if it met us, because I try and be as less estate agency as I can. Like the way I talk, the way I act, the way I dress, I try and break away from everything normal. So kind of making sure that it matches your tone is so important, because I think for my concern outsourcing it was that it wouldn't come across how I would explain it. And when I did look at outsourcing to other people who kind of do content, right, I just didn't find it didn't hit the spot. It wasn't quite there. So I think making sure that consistency with the content that you're putting out in all different medias kind of all match. I think that's, yeah.
Yeah. And Abigail, you spoke before about that having the person within your office, although they are, they will essentially create the tone for the business as well.
Although they collate, obviously we get a lot of the stuff from Jerry with the e-guides and the canvassing letters and the lead magnets. So a lot of that is coming from the voice that he sort of helped us create. And I think one of the other added benefits, and this was the absolute cinch when I decided to sign up with Jerry, was he's from Northwest London. So everything is, so he knows like the people, the demographic of my area better than but most other people out there, because he's lived in where we are. So it really gives him an added advantage. And when we're writing something or we want him to create something, he knows the audience that it's going to be going out to. And he knows, like Nick said earlier with the humour, he knows what like the nan level is in this area.
And it's high. It's Nick. I think the one big takeaway, because you'll probably ask that takeaway question. Best ever response I've heard to that takeaway question was at a conference.
So he won't.
The Chinese I had the night before. That was the best.
I mean, it sounds to me what we're talking about here, though, as much as anything, is as much as the process is, you need to empathize, don't you? If you're going to outsource this, you need to feel that connection with the likes of Jerry there to make sure you're just on the same page. Once you are, that's quite an easy relationship to have, then, isn't it? Because you're going to dovetail together.
Yeah.
Okay. So to help the impact and advertising tagline, can you provide one key statistic or something that might blow the minds of the audience, Jerry? Something that you haven't divulged before in terms of, why this whole area is so important.
What, in content marketing?
Yeah. Why should people, is there anything there that's out there that you feel why people should be slapped around the face to obviously come to the wonder that is the Agency Content Club?
Not just Agency Content Club. Put that aside. Content marketing in general. I think all you need to do, if you're not convinced about content marketing, take the time to read something by Seth Godin or Gary Vaynerchuk. Yeah. Both very successful people. Godin's my favorite. Because he makes the point, right? So during the football that was recently on, it's probably the last time I watched terrestrial TV, or commercial terrestrial TV. We always made a point of skipping through the adverts. We pause it, skip through the advert, pause it, skip through the advert. And basically, that's what people are doing with a lot of advertising now. Now, content marketing isn't advertising. No. Think of it as telling rather than selling. So you're telling your audience how to do this, or you're telling your audience why this community cafe is wonderful. Do you know what I mean? So go and seek out, if you're not convinced about content marketing, go and read something by Seth Godin. That'd be my tip.
That's come there. Okay. So let me turn that around a little bit then to Abigail and Nick then, in terms of, what do you feel is the ROI from being a member of Jerry's club? Are you able to?
Just 1 sec. I'm just going to leave at this point. Genuinely leave. I'll come back in 30 seconds.
As if you are. You've just gone to press record.
I think my dog's just bit the postman.
Okay. Now, if you could destroy him now, that would be the best video we could possibly do. But that would. So obviously there are 1,000,001 different demands. Famously, I always quote, agents on average have 20 different suppliers. So if you to invest your time, energy, and everything else with Jerry, and to be, as you said, Nick, with him for 18 months, means that you really understand that they deliver for you. Do you just naturally feel that there's an ROI there, or are you able to gauge and quantify that at all?
It's a mixture of both, really. I think I'm confident that his content is going to win me business. There's no doubt in that. And for the first kind of 6 to 9 months, I didn't really see that. I think I didn't really see that because I wasn't asking whether they'd read these articles. I was going to valuations. I wasn't discussing it. And it got brought up a particular landlord that I met mentioned when I asked, how did you hear about us? He mentioned that he saw one of the blog posts that I kind of snipped down and put on Instagram. And he loved the tone of it. He loved the way that it was one about tenants, about building a relationship between landlords and tenants. And that shown him that we care about that relationship. And that's why he got me round there. And we now manage his property. So that was clear evidence to me immediately there. Right. That article won me that business. I've got no doubt I would not have been in his living room if it wasn't for that article. So then I started asking people more that when I'm meeting them, are they seeing these articles? Is there anything they're liking? And I was quite surprised how many people actually read them, because I initially thought it was just content put out there. It was just something I didn't have to worry about. Jerry supplied it, I plonked it up, and everyone's happy. I totally underestimated how many people were reading these. And I think
that's the danger, Nick, isn't it, of content marketing, is the whole John Wanamaker quote that I know half my advertising is working, but I don't know which half is. And that's a wonderful benefit of content marketing, because actually you can be, you can be putting it out there, and over time, just that assimilation of information, and as that brand builds and as the trust in your brand builds, Abigail said before, so many estate agents are focused on just the here and now. Here comes the lead from Rightmove or one of the other portals, and they fight over that, where there has been no trust built up between the agents. So you've got to put on a stellar show at the appraisal, because frankly, that's all you've got. With content marketing, you've got a bit in the bank, haven't you?
Yeah, definitely. I think people are going to see what you're about before you've even opened your mouth to them. And already you're ahead of everyone else. When they know that you're a person and they know a bit of your personality and what you're about as a business, you're already 10 steps ahead the next guy or the next woman that comes in after you.
And Abigail, cheers, Nick. And Abigail, does that resonate with you? Do you find yourself, when your team are turning up to appraisals, when they're talking to people, that they've already got a kind of latent sort of understanding of what you as a business is about?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, we do several things, not just using Jerry's content, but when someone does an instant vow with us, it goes into our nurture system, and they'll start being sent videos from team members. They'll get one of Jerry's e-guides, depending on their specific, like whichever audience they've fallen into. They'll get regular articles from us. So they'll start to learn our voice and get an idea on who's in our team and what we're talking about on a weekly or monthly basis when it comes to property market information. So by the time we get out to that appointment, they'll be like, "Oh, you're the guy from the video." I mean, we use obviously Facebook and Instagram quite heavily, but we also recently, I'd say, 3 or 4 months ago, started doing a lot on TikTok. So some of my team actually get recognized in the local area and get stopped, say, "Oh, you're the guy from TikTok, aren't you, with all the houses and stuff?" So people get to know you, don't they? And then they know it's part of that, do they know, like, and trust you? Well, hopefully they know us. Secondly, I really hope they like us, because we're all nice people. And I'm sure they trust us, because we probably are the only trustworthy estate agents in our area, even though that should be a given in business generally. And I think also one of the first things that amazed me, I signed up with Jerry in lockdown last year, and I was personally loading up the articles and sending them out on a daily basis to our database. And existing managed clients would email me back, and non-managed clients saying, "Oh my God, I'm loving the articles." One of them wrote to me the other day. She said, "It's the only thing that's got me through my divorce, seeing your emails in my inbox every day." So people love the information. If they don't like it, they'll unsubscribe, won't they? And if they unsubscribe, then they're not my people.
That's the definition of preference-based, marketing and content, isn't it? Yeah, absolutely. Exactly. So given that this all, again, famously, I see things simplistically, but given that this just seems such an obvious no-brainer here, what do you still feel? Why does some agents just not get involved from using content marketing? Is it literally they don't know the first steps to do it, or they're just not that kind of personality? Why would you not? Anybody?
Don't you think as agents notoriously do what they've always done? It's something different, and the unknown's scary. People don't like change, and I guess some people don't know where to start. And hopefully, most of my competitors stay in that realm.
Yeah, but here's the great thing, about the competitors thing with the model that me and Chris Watkin have. It's the same model. He only has one per town. We'll only have one postcode districts we work out. Yeah. You need that exclusivity. If you are outsourcing, because we turn down now, I don't know, it's probably like 50-50, because the area's gone. And we always say to him, we'll recommend Chris. We just say, like, have a chat with Chris because we can't help you. But you need that postcode exclusivity or that area exclusivity. That's like the main thing you need for your estate agency if you're outsourcing. And I think one of the things that stopped agents from doing it is a bit like Abigail said there. There's some agents who are so slow to the party. They were so late to the party.
Yeah.
And I think they are. If you're not doing content marketing now, or it's not in your plans, then you're really late to the party.
Because Nick was mentioning there, even by his own admission, it took 6 months or a while there to get the ball rolling. It just can't happen overnight, can it?
Yeah. It's not a silver bullet. There's no marketing silver bullet.
Oh God, mind you, when you're saying that, I did like the idea there that there's just an entire nation split down the middle of contenting driven by Jerry Lyons and Chris Watkins. There's got to be some sort. He loves a pie, does Christopher Watkins. There's got to be a pie chart that can show how you're doing against his agents, and that's got to be the fight that everyone's looking for.
We do actually have quite a lot of this shared clients. Abigail's one. We do have some clients. We got because we're non-competing content styles. But no, what I would say is for agents that are not doing content, and listen. This ain't a pitch for this ain't just a pitch for us. They need to be doing content. There's Chris. There's Data Loft. Yeah. There's other people out there doing content. I think of Chris and Data Loft because I see them as the two of the best ones, apart from us.
It's literally. Okay, here's the thing. Let me just, and it's really unfair because it's a judge. How many? I'll ask each of you in turn. Let's ask you, Jerry, though, as the main fella. In terms of what percentage of agents do you think are doing content marketing well at the moment?
Well, I know that there's 120 definitely doing it well. I know that. Yeah. It's getting a lot better.
You know where I said you should become vulnerable and open yourself up. You could try that at any moment.
No, it's not bragging if you could back it up. Muhammad Ali quote there. Boom. Agents are getting better at it. And one thing I think as well, and I always try and guard against it, is, and this is not just content marketing companies, but other companies that are marketing to estate agents tend to say, or a lot of them sort of make estate agents feel bad. You should be doing this. You should be doing that. Why are estate agents so rubbish at X, Y, Z?
The negative sell, the effective but negative.
Yeah, I don't get it. But I think it's getting a lot better. And the likes of Abigail and Nick, and content marketing, like I said, is everything. That's why I mentioned Abigail's videos around Wembley Stadium, Nick's boards. That's marketing. That's one of Nick's bottles. Yeah. And can I just go on camera? If I'd have started drinking this 8 years ago, I wouldn't be here today. I'd be at the Olympics.
What, the ones that are due to start?
See, would that pass the NAN test, Nick?
No.
Yeah.
As I said,
I
have a very different view. Abigail, what do you think as a percentage agents that do content marketing well? Are we talking 50%, 25%, 10%?
I was going to say 25%, but that might even be high. I don't know. Yeah.
What about yourself, Nick?
I think it's lower. I think like good content marketing, I think it's about 10%. And I think because lots of agents are putting their marketing out there, is it good or is it the typical, we've got buyers waiting, no obligation valuation, the little corny leaflets you get through your door. I think if you kind of take all that and just look at the good marketing, I'm in a town that's got 14,000 rooftops. There's 13 agents, and I can only name one other that I would say is putting out good stuff. I think it's about 10% that's putting out good.
I wouldn't be surprised, just to show I just agree with both you and Abigail at two different numbers, is that actually the problem we do is because we're all connected on social as well, is we tend to see what the best are doing all the time, don't we? Exactly. We're in a little echo chamber. We're still not really aware that a load of agents get it from Property Industry or Estate Agency Today is their news and everything else. So those bubbles and how insular they can be is a real challenge.
Very good point.
Look, I could talk for ages, but we all know that. Let's just leave Mr. Watkins as again just jumped in again. Great thoughts on content from Jerry. He really knows his onions. I think that was.
And to give respect to Chris, I always say this, Chris started off the movement for content marketing in estate agents. I see there's a lot of new people coming to the market now, into the mix, and some of them you'd think invented it, but they didn't.
Well,
the one who did it first was Chris.
That's all on Chris, because I did tell him he should have formed a Ponzi scheme and taken 5% from each of those, but he didn't want to do that. So he famously, unlike me, never takes a clip. So that's it. Right, let's just summarize this. First and foremost, guys, thank you very much for your time. It's been fascinating listening how you're using it, hearing your experiences of Jerry and his fantastic hair and the content that he offers on a daily basis. But you've got more than that, haven't you, Jerry? You've been really kind for exclusive Kerfuffle members. You're willing to just jump on a 20 kind of MOT essentially with agents and give them a brief overview of where they're going right, where they're going wrong. No obligation.
No obligation, but there is a caveat. The area has to be available.
Yeah.
So I couldn't have a chat with somebody in Wembley because, like I said, my homegirl Abigail's got that locked down. Do you know what I mean? She's got that wrapped up like a mummy. And excellent. Nick Cheshire as well. Actually, no, I won't say that on air. I'll tell you afterwards. He knows. I had a run-in with an agent in his town a while back.
Well, the other thing is, everybody, if you're interested in that, go to where Jerry is on social, but go via the contact me button on the landing page. Go to Agency Content Club on Kerfuffle there, and do as I always say. Don't just, you've heard it from the horse's mouth from Nick and Abigail here today. But we'll also go and see the reviews where a lot of people are going into a lot of detail about how Jerry is helping them out. And I know we'll get all embarrassed and shy about that, but the important thing you said, Jerry, is just make sure you're doing it, isn't it? There's enough choice out there, but first and foremost, find out if your postcode is available, and then learn a bit more from Jerry.
And remember, there's one thing that I've got out of this. Ask yourself, would Nick's Nana approve?
Yes, the Nick's Nana test is now a thing.
That's
it's
the benchmark.
Adam did try manfully to get on, but he wouldn't. But I'm sure he'd have just reiterated it, and would have it been here for another half hour. So in a way, he's helped us out there. Abigail, Nick, Jerry, fantastic hearing from you again. Thanks to everyone who's given their comments as well, and we'll all catch up soon. Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Abigail, Nick, Simon.
Thank you.
Thank you.